We were a very fortunate family to have George Buchanan come to Maui. I'm not sure if you remember, but some missionaries came to the island. They could not speak the language, so they decided that they were either going back to the mainland or go to some other islands in the Pacific. George Buchanan was very inspired, and he told the leaders that no, he's going to stay here. But that was on Oahu, and the mission president, I can't remember his name right now, decided that they were going to pulley, get around a circle and pray, and who was going where. So after the prayer, George Buchanan told the mission president, I'm going to Lahaina, to Maui. And at the time, Lahaina was what you called a whaling harbor. All the whaling ships came through Lahaina. And Lahaina was actually picked the first capital for Hawaii, to Hawaii. And so he got on a boat that was going to Lahaina, and he went to Maui with, I think, Elder Keeper. And they landed in the harbor, and the ship didn't bring you, or the boat didn't bring you all the way in. They stopped outside, and you had to basically swim in, swim into Lahaina. And while I want to say president, he did end up being a president, but George Buchanan was in Lahaina. His assignment was to go and find a place so they could live. And first, how we always do it, we always ask for our Heavenly Father's help, for His guidance, for Him to, just open up a way that He may visit or see someone that could help him. And so they did. He and his companion said a prayer, and that's when he told his companion, I'm going to go and take a walk and go up this little place that I see. And he did, and he came to a woman with a daughter. I'm trying to think their names, but excuse me, it's not coming yet. But he didn't talk the language, and they were talking Hawaiian, and he just kind of made a lot of motions, and then the daughter says to her mom that I think he's looking for a place that he and his companion can stay. And right away the mom says, they can stay in the house. What, do they mind staying in the house, And so in her way, because she was a teenager, I would say, or almost an adult, 17 maybe, but, so in her own way, she motioned and made, different motions, house and all that, and, and he said, yes, they're just looking for a place. And so they stayed with this mom and daughter. Actually, the daughter had a house of her own, so the mom went to stay with her daughter. But while he was there, George Buchanan prayed a lot. He asked the Lord for guidance all the time. And it wasn't just morning, but it was morning, noon, and night. Because he felt that this is where he should be, but he didn't know how to help the island people. And there was the Methodists and Lutherans that were already there. And so he went up to one of the leaders of one of those churches and asked him that when they were done on Sundays, if he could have the chapel for maybe an hour. And they said, oh, sure, So if you're here at 11, we just get done, you're welcome to have it. You can have the people come in, or whoever wants to stay from there, they were very willing to help him. So every Sunday he would wait outside at the chapel and wait till the people came out, and then his little group, whatever little group he had gathered during that week, he just told them, how we wait to come on in, and he started teaching them the gospel. And pretty soon, he was speaking the language. I mean, he was, the people that stood outside of the door listening in, this person is speaking our language. We understand what he's saying. And so the church started getting full. And the other ministers were getting upset because the people were going to where they could understand what was being said to them. And so pretty soon he lost that privilege of being able to, get the chapel. And so they stayed outside. He preached to them outside. I mean, what better place than it would be than, in the outdoors and nature. And this went on for a while because, while he was speaking the language, he was teaching them the Book of Mormon. He had the Book of Mormon, but none of the people there could read English or understand English. But he worked hard, and my story is George Buchanan decided that he needed to go to Wailuku, and that is climbing through the mountains on the backside of Lahaina, coming down the Iau Valley River, and because there was a brother, Jonathan Napele, or Napela, that was in Wailuku. And he had a few people that, they were waiting, like they were waiting for someone. And this someone was George Buchanan that they were waiting for. And so he did. He came down and he saw this person in, I think it was a fenced yard and a house. And there was, it was a man. It was Jonathan. And it was as if he was looking for someone. And so when George Buchanan came up closer and closer, Jonathan told him, waved him in to come. And he says, I have been waiting for you. We're waiting for you. There were a few of them in the house. And George Buchanan went in. But before that, George Buchanan fell in the river while he was walking, in the Eel Valley River. And he fell right in front of this an older couple's home. And, and they were both outside, like on the little porch or lanai sitting. And then the lady waved on to him to come, gave him some tapa cloth to, put over himself, and she says, give her, his shirt, and then, of course, the garment and everything, and she put it on the rocks to dry. And all they had to offer him was an opu, which is a small river fish, and boy, while he was waiting for his clothes to get dry, and so they offered him that. And, he ate it. He told in some way in this journal, he says the pork didn't have any taste, so all he did was watch them like the poi at that time was a 2-finger poi, because there is a 3-finger, that's more sour and more whatever, but the fresh one you can just do with your 1 finger. And he ate it, and he, it didn't. He wanted to be a part of them, but he needed to go and see Jonathan. And so when his clothes was dry, put on his clothes, his garment, his clothes, and he went back and see Jonathan. And then he came back, and he wanted to see, the couple. The couple was still there, but they were an older couple, and he told them that he was going back to Lahaina. And that's when he asked, that was my great grandma and grandpa. He says, I don't hear any children. Do you have any children? And they said no, they didn't have any children. And he blessed them. He said, can I give you a blessing? And of course they, shook their head yes. And he blessed them that they would have as many children as Christ had disciples, plus 2. And he was the couple, my great grandparents were older, I'm not going to guess at their age or anything, but that's all it said, that they were an older couple. And there it is. They had 14 children. Several of them did not make it. They didn't go. Great grandma didn't go full term. But my dad was one of the 14 that lived. My grandma, who was my dad's mom, was one of the 14 that was blessed through George Buchanan. We do have the story. We do, as a we do have a story about how my grandparents accepted the gospel and how they lived worthy to have my dad's mom, to have that blessing with them. It was a story that we told everyone anytime we knew of, and we were always asked to, just share something about the church, and that would always come up. And so, yes, we were very blessed with George Buchanan, who was such an instrumental and inspiration to so many people. He even translated the Book of Mormon in Hawaiian for the island people. There is a book that that we were able to get that said the saints in the Pacific Isles, and it has that story in it. And we've always been so so blessed and very we always knew that we were loved. We never doubted that at all. And we always were able to tell our children about it. All our children know this, and they are so happy to know, how it all started, because some people don't really know, but as they research, they find out more and more about how, they became members of the church. We're out in the big, wide ocean out there, surrounded by water. And in order for us, to get anything, it would have to be the boats and the ships that came to us, and, to bring things that they knew that we needed.
I wanted to just mention that while she's sharing this with you, it's going to come full circle, because she shared a story about her mom and each of the children do every Sunday.
Oh, okay. Yes. See, this is what happens when you are not cool. You open your mouth and you volley out. And that's what I did with our brother. I was volleying out with him, telling him about, oh yes, I said, we knew the Osmonds when we were little, but we didn't have a TV. My dad felt, TV was not in his price, mind to get a TV. So, and during that time, sacrament was in the evening. It was night. In the later meeting of the day. We went to Sunday school, and then you went home, and you did. And at the time also, we didn't know what time the home evening was, but that's what we did right after lunch. We had to quote a scripture or recite the articles of faith. And didn't think, we did that every Sunday, so, And then before we went to sacrament meeting, my mom and dad would turn the radio on and get all us kickies in front of that radio, and it was complete silence. And turn on the Osmonds, and we listened to the Osmonds on the radio. No TV, just the radio, and we were, I think back and I think, what a way to start sacrament meeting. Listening to the Osmonds. So yes, that was our, a story within a story in doing that. But it was our mom who, really enjoyed the Osmonds and things like that. Thank you, mahalo.
Buenas noches, Andy, you want to carry the program for a little bit? This is interesting when you see how the church has had effects on all of us, no matter where we live. And here they were sitting in the middle of the ocean, and all they had was a radio, no TV. And what was their favorite show? The Osmonds! Amazing.